Now, if you come up with a scoring system that gets the average error down to comparable to what the lines maker spreads are, you probably have something that's worth some money. Now, each time you test these distances from the errors, you can then go back, adjust your formula, tweak it, where you're again trying to minimize the mean error in your score versus the actual score. Now you iterate this, go through several times until you get something you like, and then you're ready for step 5, which is what I'll call using advanced testing. And this is what you should use extensively before you even think about betting it. Now, a test a lot of people know about is called against the spread betting. You come with the system, it identifies certain plays, and you will bet it whenever you think you have a certain advantage. And when you bet it, when you meet this criteria, what is your win-loss record against the spread? Now, that's one common system, but that's not particularly strong. There are much better ways to assess the strength of a model. 2 other ways that are much stronger to look at the strength of your model. The first is what's called action point betting. You look at your 200 plays across the spectrum, and how do you do if you grade each bet on how you did on action points. So if you picked a dog at +3 and it won by 3, that would be 6 action points. That would be +6. That same dog, you picked it at +3 and it lost by 10, that would be -7 on action points grading. And again, with this test, your goal is to maximize your net action points result. A second type of test you can use is to look at the opening lines and the closing lines and say, well, how often does my model pick a number on the opener but it'll pass on the closer? That is, how often does the market price agree with your pick? And in fact, this is a lot stronger than just comparing it to a regular win-loss record. I've used these methodologies in college football and in arena football, and I can tell you in any non-major sport, you're probably going to be able to hit at least 55% on a wide variety of plays. When you're testing your model against actual games, you may find that your model does very well in some situations and poorly in others. For example, it may be brilliant at picking large dogs, but generally it's poor. Or you may find that in games with low totals it's exceptionally strong. When you find certain situations that it looks good, but it's not across the board, you need to be very careful of something called data mining error. One thing you absolutely have to do when you're testing your model is to keep 1 year of data, what we'll call out of sample, that you don't analyze at all when you're trying to develop your model. And I often use the most recent year. So once you have this model, then you can actually test it against something that didn't go into developing the model. This is extremely important to avoid the data mining error. Now, I've talked briefly about what I'll call a points-based scoring model, where you're just looking at scores, but there are, again, much better ways to predict how many points a team will generate than looking at how many points they have in the past. And we've all heard of yardage models, and you can include as many factors as you are willing to spend time researching. And it may take you, 100 hours to come up with a very good model, but if you do, it'll be worth the time. That's all for this week. If you have any questions, feel free to send an email to justin@sportsbookreview.com or send me a PM at the same site.